Hello and welcome to the Sensual Being podcast with myself, your host, Jolene Whiting. I have been a pole dance teacher for nearly 20 years. I'm also a yoga instructor, and my favourite pastimes are connecting to my own sensuality, connecting with the world, and connecting with animals as well. In this podcast, you'll find new and inventive ways of how you see yourself, connecting yourself with others, and also how you see and view the world around you. Today's episode, we're going to be looking at practical ways of how you can protect your own energy. Hello, you wonderful, wonderful sensual being, and thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you are doing really well, and I hope it's sunny where you are, because the sun brings so much beauty and happiness. This episode is actually a bit of an extension, so it's a bit of a part 2 really to the last episode that I did. In the last episode, I was talking very much about why it's important to protect our energy, but I didn't really talk much about how. So I would really recommend you listening to that previous episode as well, because we talk about people who are like draining your energy vampires, people who sometimes they consciously do it, like they deliberately bring you down. And they watch it happen and they do it deliberately. They know they're upsetting you, but they're going to do it anyway. And it drains you, it brings you down. But you also have the unconscious energy suckers that do it, where they might be in negative spirals. And this happens very much from, when you look at like social media, the news, it's a lot of fear-based driven things, like set to bring us right down. Now, when you are communing with people who are really buying in to every single thing that they hear on the news, every single thing, and there's a lot of people that buy into all of it, but when you speak to those people, they may be all like doom and gloom, like, oh, have you heard the news? Oh, and isn't that awful? Did you hear about that person? Oh, isn't that awful? Oh dear. And again, that drains your energy. So when people drain your energy, it's not completely like mean. Some people are mean, yeah. Get rid of those people from your life. You don't need those. But sometimes it's unconscious. And I think it's a duty of, I say duty, it's kind of all of us trying to come together to help each other find ways forwards. Because these people who unconsciously drain your energy probably don't want to. They don't want to. If you told them that that's what they do, they'd probably be so hurt. So hurt. They never intended to do that. But can we find ways to maybe switch conversations around, pick each other up a little bit more? I sort of feel like that's the world that I want to live in. So that's the energy I'm giving out to you today. But I also spoke about when we go to like spiritual gatherings, like circles, meditations, ecstatic dance, retreats, even just as you going on a holiday, taking that time away from your routine, and what it can give to us. And normally it can give us something really, really good. Unless we're really in a pit of grief and despair or depression, it can. Sometimes if we're feeling good when we go to these events, sometimes we can come out there feeling absolutely like on a high. Life isn't always like that, but when that happens, great. But what is that high? And that high is very much our connection to source, our connection to God, our connection to the universe. But what are you doing outside of that to maintain that connectiveness, to maintain that inner feeling? And I'm not saying you'll walk around high as a kite all day, but it's what can you do to make sure that you actually have that balance? Because we can get so caught up with what bills to pay, the next thing I've got to do by a deadline or work, or, it's just, we are getting sometimes so consumed by things that don't matter, and the things that matter or not. And I can give you a very short idea of how to find out what matters in your life. If you are on your deathbed, out of all the things on your to-do list, yeah, if you were on your deathbed right now, which one of those things would you want to do? And I bet it's none of them. I bet nothing that you wrote down on your to-do list you want to do. I bet it's hug my children one last time, see my dog one last time, hug my partner, hug my parents. It isn't get stuff to the dry cleaners, order that thing off Amazon, or go to here after work. None of that stuff matters, yeah? But we can get so consumed by it. And the more consumed by all these things, the more we just let our energy wander. We just let it wander. It does whatever it wants. God, no. No. You need to pull it back in. You need to pull that energy back in. And it's really interesting because the more you pull it back in to yourself and start to really build yourself up. So don't just rely on these spiritual events. Bring little tidbits from the bits you enjoyed to your own place, your own house, your own garden, or go to the park or sit under a tree. Whatever it is, whatever space you can have for yourself. Maybe you're just going to put a mat down and maybe you don't have a mat. Maybe you don't have your own yoga mat, but you go to yoga and you're like, do you know what? I'm going to buy a mat. I'm going to do some yoga. You might choose to pick something off like YouTube and do it, but why don't you just see what you can remember of things that you enjoyed? And I think you'd be surprised at what you can remember. And when you start doing this sort of thing for yourself, you start to tap into more love for yourself. Self-love is one of those things that feels very edgy for a lot of people, or it might feel edgy for you some of the time, but not all the time. And that's okay, because we live in a world that's trying to distract us from this self-love, because the more you tap in to the energy, the frequency of love is like the highest frequency you can tap into. Things like anger, sadness, they're very low vibration. Yeah, we're going to feel them. But what can you do to bring yourself back into balance or to make yourself feel better than that? Because, like I said, we are living in a world which is very fear-based. And even a lot of the stuff that you watch on TV is horrific. Like, really think about some of the stuff that happens in some of these series. And I know this because I used to love watching Breaking Bad. I used to love watching Dexter. And it's just like, oh my God. And it's like when you hear lyrics in songs and you're like, oh, I've been singing along to this all year. I love this, like all my years, and I've loved this. And then you actually suddenly, it's like you literally just wake up and you go, and you're singing lyrics out loud about things like about suicide and about the world would be a better place if I'm not in it. And yes, that is some of Marilyn Manson's type of songs that he's had that I've sung for years. And I thought, oh my God, I'm not singing that anymore. I can't do it. But we are getting so taken away, and it's so normalized to do all this stuff I just said. Yeah, everyone watches Dexter, don't they? Breaking Bad, yeah? Everyone's seen it. But how horrific are some of the things that happen in there? And yet we are getting so blasé with, that's all right, or that's normal, or it doesn't do anything to my system anymore because I've made it okay in myself. You're like, no. God, no. But the further away we get from this like self-love, the further away we get from our own inner power. Now, our own inner power, I've talked about manifesting before and things like that. We have the ability to create magic in our lives. There's a certain element, I believe, of being dealt the cards that you've got, like using the cards you've been dealt. That's probably the better way to put it. So, let's see, what cards would I say that I can't really change? My age. Okay, I'm my age. Yeah. So what can I do that is sort of deemed as, maybe you can't necessarily do that at your age? Well, actually, I'm still trying hard to think about this, and I don't really think there is anything. There are people out, like, for example, like, that live in shacks in some countries, absolute shacks, and the kids there are the most happiest kids ever. And you got to think you've got nothing. And yet you can meet people who have a lot of money and who seem to have everything. When we talk about everything, then we're talking really about material items. And they're not happy. So there is so much more to be said about being able to tap in to yourself, your own inner power, and your own makeup of yourself. Because when we do that, imagine if everybody did that. The sense of community, of people coming together. There's a lot of separation in our world right now. There's a lot of labeling through diagnosis, sexuality, race. There's a lot of separation going on, and I just don't agree with it. Whilst I believe we are all one and we are all here, we are also all unique, and we need to come together and share our gifts. That is how I see and view the world. I don't believe in treating someone different because they have a different label. I believe in treating someone to what their needs are, if that makes sense. And the labels are very much separating us. But if we all tapped in to this higher frequency of ourselves, all tapped into self-love for ourselves, the unconditional love from God, and then we all started to then tap into our own higher power, our creativeness, our manifesting skills. I mean, for an example, on the creative side of things, I always used to think that if you wanted to be a singer, you had to be a singer already for a start. You didn't learn it, you just are a singer. And you would have to go down routes of, becoming an artist, and, a songwriter, and actually be one of these top people. And I grew up watching Top of the Pops. We didn't have ways like YouTube and Spotify that you could actually put your own music out there. You didn't have that. It was the elite. You had to be the elite. And so often all these artists are actually related to another one of the elites, like people in power, like maybe like someone's a pop star and their parents are newsreaders and been newsreaders for a year, and maybe their brothers are actors. It's all like interconnected. And I always used to think that if you wanted to be like a singer, you had to be this sort of singer. You had to be what I would deem as good, professional, the top, the pros, the elites. But actually singing is our birthright. I mean, kids will sing before they can talk. Babies will sing before they can talk. And it literally is something that we should all be able to do and never lose it. But the way our world has deemed like the world stage and everything, it's like, well, if you can't sing like that, like Adele or something, then you're not good enough. No. Singing is for everyone. But can you see that amount of creativity that has been lost from so many people? Because people are like afraid that they don't sound like this person. They don't sound like that. I don't think anybody sings and sounds the same to anyone else. But we are all getting taken away from creativity. And again, that is like magic in our lives. And that is something that we should all be able to tap into, not necessarily singing, but whatever your creative flow or energy is. And some people don't even know what they like being creative about. They don't even know what they like thinking about, what keeps them awake at night, because they're just designing something in their head. Some people don't have that. And if you are a real creative person, just know that there are people out there that would always go, yeah, I'm not creative at all. And it's like, oh my God, like jaw drop open, like, yes, you are. Everybody is. But we're getting taken away from it. So I really, really believe that the more we tap into this, we are less ego driven. Yes, our ego's there. That's okay. But we are not led by the ego. So-and-so's got this, I've got to have that. I've got to do better than that. What are my stats for this? Oh, it didn't get many likes. That means I've got to do something different to get the likes. None of that matters. And it's like, this is why they don't want us to tap into it as well, because the economy, we wouldn't be so bothered about material items, buying the next thing, having the latest car, the latest phone, the latest tablet. Oh my God, no. It would be a different world if we all tapped into this kind of higher frequency. But I would really like to talk to you now, before I forget to talk to you about this, about protecting your energy. Now, you can protect it in many different ways, and the ways I'm going to talk about are not the only ways. I'm just going to talk to you about my ways, of what I've done or what I do. And one of the reasons why I want to talk to you about this as well is because, I went into the times, I think I've spoken about this on the pods as well, that I've got into Tesco's lately, and it is I can't explain what happens in there, but I'll go in there and I'll be walking around with my partner. He goes, "You're all right?" And I'm like, "I'm not happy." And he goes, "Well, okay, we're nearly done." I'm like, "Yep, okay," because I'm not happy. And I'm about to burst, because I can feel so much draining negative energy in there. And I look at people's eyes in there, and there's something that's missing in their eyes. I'm not saying they're not human, but I'm saying it's something like a life force energy has been taken away, and I can really feel it. And the more energy work I do, the more I'm like, oh my God, these people, I'm not sure what's going on. So right now, whenever I go to Tesco's, I have to try and remember to put a shield up. And to be honest, when I go to Tesco's, I keep it in my eyes, basic. So I say to myself that I am protected from negativity. I kind of imagine this light surrounding me. The light might change color at different times, but generally it's a really bright light. It's just really, really bright. It's almost literally like a bubble. And this bubble is surrounding me whilst I'm in there. And it's really interesting, these sort of shields, because I know a lot of people who do Reiki and they use shields as well, because when you're doing Reiki on someone and you're being that connective body for energy to come through you and into them, you want to make sure that energy, say if they're hurting somewhere, doesn't literally come back into you. So you do have to have a shield on. And I remember one of the times when my dad had cancer, and it still sounds weird saying that out loud, years ago, but it's still there. When he had cancer, my partner at the time, he did Reiki, and he had been doing Reiki on my dad, and my dad was not someone who would have said yes to this at any other time. But the fact that there was put it this way, my dad would try anything at that point. And when he did Reiki on him, for one thing, my dad said it was the only time that he felt like he didn't have cancer. So I'm like, my God, there's something powerful about this. Wow, what is Reiki? I need to know more, because I didn't know about it. But also, the bit that I wanted to talk about was the fact of when my partner came out from my dad once, and he'd been doing Reiki on my dad, he walked over and gave me a hug and stuff. And I didn't know about the shield. I didn't really know anything about this sort of energy work. And I said to him, I said, "Are you all right?" And he said, "Yeah." And I went, "Are we all right?" And he went, "Yeah." And I went, "But what? I don't understand." And he was like, "Oh my God, I'm really sorry. I didn't take the shield down." So he had put this shield up that no one else's energy basically could come back through to him. And he'd left the shield up, and I didn't know anything about this. And he sort of mentally took it down. And I was like, oh, it feels different now. And I couldn't tell you what. I didn't see anything, but I felt something. And it was just, that was my first inclination at any sort of shield or protectiveness that you put up. And that was like my first kind of intro to that, because I never knew anything about that at that time. I mean, this was years ago, and I wasn't aware of it. So when I go into Tesco's, I do that kind of like a bubble of light, and I find that protects me enough. And whether it's, you could say, yeah, you're physically putting something around you, or is it just your mindset that you're not going to let anyone get to you in there type of thing, I can't tell you exactly what it is. So you need to be open to whatever it is. I think mindset can play a huge part, kind of like prayers and mantras and what we say to ourselves, because what we think, our body can have a reaction to. So if you think about something, don't do it, by the way, but if you think about something really, really sad, or someone that makes you really angry, and you really think about them, your body will have a reaction. You'll feel that anger, or you'll feel that sadness. And your body doesn't always know what is real or what is not. So your thoughts carry that type of energy into your body. So if you are working with your thoughts, then you can actually change the biological reaction that your body has. So again, mindset. So things like mantras, chants, affirmations, prayer, whether it's out loud or just said internally, there is power in saying these things out loud into the universe. But there's also so much power in just thinking to yourself. So don't think you've got to walk around everywhere, waving your arms around in like this bubble shape around you, and then say, I'm protected from negativity everywhere you go. You don't have to be. You don't have to do that. There's an argument for keeping the words positive as well. Like, for example, saying, I am love, I am light. But I also like to be more specific than that, because I like, the negativity to not come in. So I like to be kind of direct with that. So again, it's your way of doing it. What I try and do every morning, and I do it often before bed, is I do a little bit of breathing, a little bit of breath work. And I like to imagine breath coming up from the earth, coming down from the cosmos, and then breathing it out through my heart. So I like that connectiveness of breathing in from the earth goddess, breathing down from the heavens, the cosmos, the stars, God coming down, and then breathing out from the heart. So doing that breath kind of like centers me, rubbing my hands together, creating that energy into my hands. And sometimes when you bring your hands away from each other, and it's almost like literally you're holding like a beach ball or a football, and you can kind of just feel your hands radiating this energy to each other. And you can kind of play with that energy. Now that energy, I like to try and imagine a lot of the time that it's a very strong blue. Don't know why. Very strong blue. So I'm drawing energy up from the earth, which is blue. I'm drawing energy down into my crown chakra, which is coming down, and it's blue. And then I'm going to swirl that energy round my body. I try and do it in an anti-clockwise motion, bringing that energy round into my aura field. As I'm doing it, I like to say, this is protection from negativity, from the past, present, or the future. I also like to wish that this is protection for myself, my loved ones, and for all of humanity. Because really, remember, how we go forward is so important. So putting this energy out to all of humanity is so incredibly powerful. And then because I want to keep this protection up all day, but I don't actually want to alienate anyone else who's sort of trying to come in. I always back it up with unconditional love can pass freely. So the unconditional love. So this is where like, it's not necessarily just what you think is as good people. Oh, that's a good friend. If their love is unconditional towards you, that they love you, like no matter what, that love can enter. But people who are led with things like, well, I'll only like you if, those sort of people, that love will not be able to penetrate because it's not unconditional. And I have no time for it. So I kind of find that type of ring of protection and working with my aura field really helps. Dancing with my aura as well. So actually moving your, like just dancing, but just moving your hands around you. There's no right or wrong way to do this. But that is how I like to create protection within my life. And the more you do it, the more it feels like it holds and the better you get with it. Now, again, you might just think that's just mindset. That's just mindset. That's cool. If you really believe that, that's good. Do that, as in like do the mindset part of it. If you're like, oh, it's all woo-woo, chucking those colours around my body like that in an anti-clockwise motion, what's she talking about now? That's okay, you don't have to do it. But what I'm giving you here is so many ways to work with your mindset around what energy you allow into your body and into your heart, into your soul. Because at the end of the day, we do actually have that level of discernment, and to actually engage in keeping our sovereignty as well, and not just like letting it all go away. Like I remember somebody who she's in the spiritual space. This was quite a few years ago now. And I remember, this comes back to like the hugs and stuff. And I remember her like saying to me, like, because I said, oh, you don't want to hug me today. This is when we used to hug all the time. And I said, oh, you don't want to hug me today. I'm not very well. And she said, oh, no, that's okay. Come here. And I was like, no, seriously, it's fine. And I didn't hug her because I then thought, hang on a minute, love. Who else have you said this to today? Like, what germs are you seriously passing around person to person? And what authenticity do you have towards yourself and sovereignty do you have towards yourself in the fact that you're just like, I'll hug anyone. I don't care if they got the flu. Like, who does that? And this is where like the work has got to come from within yourself first. And if you are somebody, for example, who wants to hold space, if you are somebody who wants to like do that sort of offering for people, it's no good just rocking up there and being like, oh yeah, I'm a meditation teacher. I teach people all about mindfulness. And then you never do it yourself. You have to practice what you preach. You have to, in whatever way that takes on. If you take people for an hour meditation for a special session, that's cool. But as long as you're doing at least 10 minutes a day or something, it doesn't have to be the exact same as what you offer. But you do have to actually practice what you preach. Otherwise, what are you doing? And I think the more you do practice what you preach, the more you actually show up for yourself and the more you connect in further. And the more elevated we can all get, the more we can bring to each other, the more we can offer with really good intention to each other. And that's the sort of world that I want to live in. Yeah, that really. Yeah. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. There are so many ways of protecting your own energy. You're very welcome to share your ways with me. Please don't think, it was a bit like, it's a bit out there. Can't say that to anyone. It is a bit edgy putting this on here because I've debated doing it for ages and I still haven't, because somehow telling you how I protect my energies just seems to be like, I bet some people are going to be laughing at me now. But actually, when I think about it, I'm like, that's all right. I don't care. Because if it connects with the person that needs it the most and you go and protect your energy and you learn from this and it helps you, then that's the point. Again, I'm trying to show up in the world in a way that I want to be, in the hope that you'll be able to show up in the world in the way that you want to be as well. Thank you so much for joining today. I hope you have an amazing day. Remember, as always, to lead through your life with your heart and to live with intention. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please do share it with your friends and on social media. If you have the time to rate or review this podcast, I'd be ever so grateful. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, you can find me at Jolene Sensual Being. The links to my YouTube and to sign up to my mailing list will be in the show notes as well. I look forward to speaking with you again very soon.